by the way. Yes. Okay, good morning, everyone. This week, we will be discussing strategy formulation phase, situation analysis, and business strategy. We mentioned about external environments and its importance on developing strategies. Today, we will be focusing on internal environment of the organizations and how these internal factors can have an impact on our strategies. And one very common way, and most of you are familiar with this, SWOT analysis, strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threat analysis. This is a very fundamental basic analysis tool, and it's applied almost everywhere to understand the situation, to understand the internal resources condition. And then we will be talking about Porter's generic strategies. You have read some articles about Porter's and his generic strategies, cost leadership, differentiation, and focus strategies. And today we will be discussing them in detail. Okay. What is a strategy formulation? Actually, strategy basically consists of three phases. One is strategy formulation phase. It's the idea phase, developing the idea of the strategy, developing new objectives, new missions, new goals for the organization. And second phase is implementation phase, formulation, implementation, and then last phase, the control phase. These are all important. I mean, these are the basic elements of strategic management. And maybe the most important one is the formulation phase and planning phase, in other words. Because if you don't know where to go, if you don't plan where you want to be, you cannot be successful. You cannot have a sustainable competitive advantage. This is like driving a car without knowing where you are going. I mean, you can be a very good driver. You can be a very talented driver. You can know the car very well in terms of its technical aspects, in terms of its engineering aspects. However, you have to have a goal, right? To a destination to go. Otherwise, it will be meaningless to just driving a car if you don't know where to go, right? So formulation phase actually gives us this destination. Where do you want to go? You are not moved yet. You are not in the car yet. You haven't started the car yet, but you have a thinking in your head. I mean, I want to go this place. I want to go Istanbul. I want to go Izmir. And this is actually your objective, your mission. I mean, why do you actually want to drive that car, right? And then which ways do you want to choose to go that place, go that destination? This is an important question as well. I mean, there are many alternative ways to go to Istanbul from Ankara, right? You can use the highway, you can use the old ways, or you can create another destination. I mean, you can change the vehicle that you go with, right? You can go with plane, you can go with train, or you can go with a bus. And so all of these questions actually about the formulation of your strategy, right? How do you want to go there? And this requires an effort, an important effort, an intellectual effort, strategy formulation phase. If a corporation puts some good effort on this phase, actually they will have more probability to be successful, because it means that the top management know what they are doing, right? They are not just responding to the environmental conditions, but they are reading the environmental conditions. They are looking up their own internal strengths and weaknesses and make a planning. And finding a strategic fit between external opportunities and internal strengths is, what do that mean? I mean, fitting to the environmental conditions. Actually, it's a very basic organization, management and organization discussion, okay? Many theories claim that. You can name population ecology theory, structural contingency theory, right? Strategic management theories, most of them. They claim that organizations should have a fit to environmental condition. Okay, so organizations should see the environmental conditions, should arrange their internal conditions accordingly. What does that mean? If we go back to our example of driving a car, you want to go to Istanbul, okay, and which way do you want to choose? Okay, so you need to make a maybe small research on the external conditions. For example, highway. If you want to use the highway, you need to check whether the highway is open, right? Or whether there is a construction in some part of that highway that may be time consuming for you, right? And almost all of us, when we go, for example, in the mornings, when we try to go to our workplaces, we look at Google Maps, right? Or Yandex navigation systems. We want to see which way is more crowded traffic, in terms of traffic, which way is more relaxed, so that we can gain some time. So this is the external analysis, actually. I mean, looking up the ways, which way to choose, right? And the second phase, which we discussed today, whether my vehicle, my transportation vehicle is available for that, right? I mean, whether I have enough fuel, gasoline to go to that place, whether my engine works, right? So this kind of questions actually also important. I mean, you need to, if there's an opportunity in the external environment, you need to use your internal strength, internal opportunities or internal factors to catch that opportunity, catch that external environment. So, strengths and weaknesses. I mean, very basic terms, right? All of you are familiar with that. What is your strengths? What is your weaknesses? Maybe you have been facing these questions even in a job interview, right? So, you remember we were talking about capabilities or competencies last week, right? You remember these. And these actually capabilities are coming from the strength of the company, good characteristics that the company is famous with, or that the company can do good, right? And weaknesses, the things that you lack, the things that you have a disadvantage. Maybe you don't have enough capacity in engineering. Maybe you don't have enough capacity in research and development. Maybe you are not familiar with new technologies, right? All of these kind of things, disadvantages, can be named as weaknesses. These are internal, by the way, and these are the potential for sources of naming a strength and naming a weaknesses. I mean, there are lists. Just look at some of them. For example, a powerful strategy, if you have, it's a strength for you. A core competency is a strength, a competence strength. An effective customer base, strong advertising and promotion, product innovation capabilities. I mean, you can name thousands of, and similarly to the weaknesses as well. What about opportunities and threats then? These are not related to, not organically related to our company, okay? These are external. These are not in our control. This is an important distinction between strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. Generally, people confuse the strengths with opportunities, okay? You should not do that. I mean, strength is something belongs to your corporation, your company, and opportunities out there. It's the external. I mean, it's not related to your company. Similarly, threats as well, okay? So, opportunity gives you an important advantage. It's outside, okay, outside of the company, but if you can catch that opportunity, it could be profitable for you, okay? It could give you a potential for gaining a competitive advantage. And it's important to company has the capacity to take advantage of that opportunity. I mean, if the company cannot do that, okay, it's meaningless for it. I mean, it's out there. There's an opportunity, but you missed that opportunity, right? So it's nothing for you. I mean, it's not valuable for you. Again, similarly, threats are out there, and there is for each of that threats, there is a probability that you could be affected with that threat, right? If that probability is high, you should take some precautions against that threats. For example, the currency fluctuations lastly in Turkey, right? The economic problems in the macro basis. This is not related to the company, right? I mean, we are not, as a company, have a saying on the currency rate of dollar or euro, but they are increasing, they are decreasing. There's a fluctuation every time, every day, right? So, and the probability of these currencies make very sudden changes is very high, right? So, as a company, you need to take some precautions against that. I mean, if you just don't see that threat outside, I mean, I don't care. I mean, it's not my responsibility to the dollar and euro. However, for example, if you buy something, buy your raw materials with dollar and euro, if you have debts in dollar terms or euro terms, it actually affects your business a lot. So what kind of precautions you can take, for example, you may think that not taking debts in euro and dollar terms, right, for example, or trying to find ways to make exports to have a currency inflow in your company, right? For example, you only sell in Turkey, but you say that because of this dollar currency and euro crisis, I want to sell my products to outside of Turkey because I need a cash inflow which should be in dollar terms, in euro terms. So it's a strategic change in your company. Can you see it? Can you understand the mentality here? So this is an external factor. It's not related to you, but it affects your strategy. It affects your doing a business. Or think that you are buying some supplies from Europe, from Germany, okay? You are buying that, but every day euro currency rate increasing. So your costs are increasing. So you may think that I want to change my strategy and I want to find some new local suppliers, right? I don't want to buy from Germany anymore. I want to look for the local supplier, or I want to produce it myself rather than buying it. This is a huge strategic change, right? Producing in the company, not rather than outsourcing that service or product. So these kind of things, guys, actually, whether these are external or internal, have an impact into your strategic planning, strategy formulation. And one important thing, the opportunity out there should be, you should be available, your internal strengths and weaknesses should be available to capture that opportunity, okay? There should be a fit between them. We will see the details. These are some examples of opportunities and threats, okay? And SWOT analysis. Yes, there's a pros and cons. Now let's talk about this. So this SWOT is a very easy analysis, very easy to understand, and it's applied everywhere. It's one of the strengths of it. And it helps the company to find advantages, niche, right? Niche. So niche means a need in the marketplace that is so well suited to the firm's internal and external environment that is currently unsatisfied by rivals. I mean, a niche, they call it, for example, we found a niche market, we found a niche target group, we found a niche opportunity here. What does that mean? Actually, no other companies have realized it yet, and it's a very perfect fit with your internal factors, okay, internal capabilities. I mean, you just catch that niche and okay, it's a very good idea, and my company is very good fit, we can do it, and you take the advantage of that opportunity. If we call it a niche. This analysis, SWOT analysis, also helps the company to open up a strategic window, right? Thinking the future, making a plan. I mean, understanding their internal characteristics and understanding the external characteristics as well. And it's very easy to use. Okay, but there are some criticisms, right? The very common, almost every time when I try to make a SWOT analysis with some company workers or with my students, I realize that sometimes everything could be a strength and a weaknesses at the same time. Okay, how come? I mean, let's say the competence levels of human resources. Okay, I have a very talented human resource. Okay, this could be a strength, but at the same time, some of your human resources, some of your employees may be a serious weakness for you, and many companies write them at the same time, the strength and in the weaknesses. The human resource, it's a strength. I mean, we have talented resources, talented human resource, talented employees like me. Okay, I am very talented. It's a strength, but also there are some employees out there, very lazy ones. They don't know anything. They are weakness for us, not me, of course. The others, the other people think like that when they're talking about SWOT analysis. And also, an opportunity could be a threat at the same time as well, with a similar mentality. Okay, so you can see it. For example, pandemic is a very big threat for our economies, right? Many of the restaurants and cafes and small businesses are shut down because of this coronavirus pandemic. However, some companies are taking the advantage of it. They are producing, for example, face masks, or they are producing hygiene products, right? They see it as an opportunity to sell their products more. So it could be an opportunity, but at the same time could be a threat for them as well, right? And it is simply the opinions of those who answers, right? The SWOT analysis. Sometimes people could be more optimistic or pessimistic about the corporation. Sometimes some employees are very angry to their company management, and they are listing many weaknesses and which are maybe not real. But sometimes some employees, some managers are very optimistic, they are very positive because they think that they are doing a great job, and they say that we don't have any weaknesses. Come on, we have a very good company. Okay, so these kind of things should be somehow balanced. I mean, this idea. So it's for this reason it's better to ask as many as people that you can, and then combine the ideas, right? So another thing, the missing thing. Generally, people list these strengths, list these weaknesses. However, they don't move one step further. What is that? What should I do with them? Okay. It also applies to you in your personal lives, guys. How come? I mean, for example, you can know your own strengths and own weaknesses, right? I mean, you say that, for example, my English is very good. You can say that. I mean, academically, I have a fluent English. I have writing capabilities. Let's say I have strength, but my theoretical background is weak. I don't know how the theory works in that, for example, strategic management field. Okay, you listed this, like similarly, you list 10 items of strengths, 10 items of weaknesses. So the next question, so what? Okay, what are you gonna do about that? What is your plans? What is your goals? What is your objectives to use that strength, to use some, or to learn something new, to get rid of your weaknesses, right? So this is important. I mean, if you are weak in theory, what should you do? You need to have an objective to read more and more in the literature, right? So this is an objective for you. This is a strategy for you to read more. Similarly, companies also list this and then leave it on the paper. Okay, we have a SWOT analysis, and then what you should do? Right? They should turn into strategic plans, strategic objectives. Okay, this is important as well. Another criticism is using not no weight to reflect priorities. I mean, okay, you listed 50 items in your strength, but which one is more important for you? Or you listed 10 threats in the external environment, but which one is more probable? Which one is more important for you? Okay, maybe you have a strength, but it does not mean anything for you. Okay, I mean you have a very good building, there's a good outlooking. So it's a strength, could be a strength, yes. How come it contributes to your strategy? Almost nothing. So maybe it's not that important, right? So there's a tool for that. We call it strategic factor analysis summary matrix. And in this metrics, you actually give a weight and give a rating for your strength factors, okay, or weakness factors, or opportunity factors, or threat factors. Now, give me an example for you. For example, this is the opportunities and threats, right? They give, for example, opportunity 1, economic integration of European community. This is an opportunity for our company. We want to take the advantage of this opportunity. Okay, what could be the weight of it? Okay, by the weight, I mean the importance of it. For example, here there are 10 factors in opportunities and threats. A total score of them could be 100%. And how many percent do you think this opportunity have a weight among these factors? And it says here 20%. So it's the most important factor for them, right? And rating, giving a rating for it. Rating was something that you give out of, let me see, where was it? Rating is, you give a rating for that, okay? That you are good or bad on that opportunity. I mean, up to 5, for example. If you are close to 5, that means you can have the strengths to take the advantage of that opportunity. If it is close to 1, it means that you have a weakness on that, okay? So here you can see that 4.1 is a high rating. So the weighted score of it is 0.82. So what kind of comments that you could do? I mean, by comments, maybe you write some suggestions, right? Acquisition of Hoover, a company, for example, you can acquire a company in the example that gives. So this is something like that. I mean, you give each of these opportunities some weight, some ratings, and you see that the yellow ones are more important for you, right? Because they have more weighted scores, and maybe the blanked ones are not that important for you, right? Economic development of Asia. I mean, it does not affect you that much. I mean, it could have an effect, of course, but your main focus is Turkey or European market, let's say. So it's only have a 5% importance for you. So maybe you think that you should not prioritize this. Okay, you should prioritize other opportunities or other threats. So this is the example. I mean, the main idea here. There are many other examples that you can see here to see that which factor should I focus more. Okay. You listed many factors, but which factors are more important for me? Giving a priority so that you should develop some strategies on them. Are we clear about this? Going too fast or slow? Any questions? No? We all good? Okay, I am continuing that.
Thank you.
Yes. Ahmed?
I mean, no question. Thank you.
No question. Okay. I thought you want to ask a question. Thank you. So that's another representation of this SWOT analysis. In this, you think together. I mean, you should think strengths and weaknesses together with opportunities and threats. How come? I mean, if there are some strengths that you can name specifically to take the advantage of the opportunity, you write it in here in SWOT strategies. So strength and opportunity strategies. How come? Now, first of all, we move on developing strategies. Okay. Now we are not listing them. We are developing strategies based on them, and we want to now combine our strengths with the opportunities. For example, you see an opportunity out there in the external environment. It's the fall season and it's gonna rain. Okay, it's gonna rain. It's an opportunity out there for you to sell more umbrellas, for example. Okay, and you think that okay, I'm a producer of umbrella, and there's an opportunity out there because it's gonna rain this week in Ankara, so I can sell these umbrellas, right? So I combine my strength of producing umbrella with the external factor of rainy weathers. So what kind of a strategy can I develop, for example? Okay, I need to distribute my umbrellas to the markets this week. Okay, so when people go out, when it becomes rainy, they should reach my umbrellas and buy them, for example, very simply. So it's a strategy for you. This week, you want to distribute your umbrellas into the markets, into the cornerstones of every street, for example, for some crowded streets. Similarly, weakness and opportunities strategy. So there is an opportunity out there, but in this time you don't have the ability to produce that umbrella. Okay, you are not producing umbrella, but you see that there's an opportunity. It's going to become rainy this week, so you need to get rid of your weaknesses, and you hire someone, or you let's say buy a machine to produce an umbrella, and by this way you overcome your weaknesses and you produce the umbrella and sell it. This is BWO strategy. Strength and threats strategies. So in this one, you want to avoid some threats, right? With using your strengths. For example, there is a financial crisis out there. It's a threat for all of the companies, this economic crisis threat. However, you have a good strength in terms of financial terms. You have a good balance sheet. I mean, you don't have problems with your finances. But what does that mean? You can take your position financially to avoid that economic thing with minimum losses, for example. These kind of financial strategies could be developed. Maybe you can decide to buy more currency, or maybe you can decide to sell some assets, okay, and then make a profit out of that. Let's say financial strategies. And lastly, weakness and threat strategies. This is actually minimizing your internal weaknesses to avoid some specific threats. Okay, I mean, you can give the example of there is a pandemic risk, right? And it's spreading among people, and you have, let's say, 100 people working in your company, but you don't have any hygiene standards beforehand because you were not prepared for that, but you decided to apply a hygiene precautions into your company, okay, to avoid that COVID-19 pandemic, coronavirus can have a negative impact on your employees, for example. You tell them to wear masks, you tell them to wash their hands, and you provide them some protective equipment, blah, blah, blah. Are we clear about that? So far, so good.
Hocam.
Yes.
What is the advantage of this matrix for us? Because we can compare the strategic factor analyze matrix to criteria, but we can't. Actually, I don't understand this advantage for this matrix.
This last month's matrix, that one.
Yes.
Yes. Matrix.
Yes.
Actually, it's a combination. It gives you an opportunity to combine your internal factors with the external factors, right? I mean, you have listed. You only have lists of strengths and list of weaknesses, and list of opportunities, list of threats. Okay, you give them some weight. Okay, by weight, what we gain? We gain the probability. I mean, which one is more probable, right? But the TOES matrix tells you what is next. So what question? Okay, I mean in here when you rate them, you just make a priority list. Which one is more important for me? Okay, But again, this matrix missed something. If you don't see the comments part, okay, comments part may give you some ideas to develop some objectives, but it is again missing because it does not say you what to do. What strategy do you need to develop then? But TOES matrix actually tells you to develop some strategies specifically.
Okay, I understand. Yes, yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, there's an example of it. Actually, I give the example, but you can also read here, maybe. Yes, a re-examination of an organization's current mission and objectives must be made before alternative strategies can be generated and evaluated. So, generally, when you try to make a strategic plan, you need to look previous strategies of the company. I mean, if it's not a new company, which is founded today, I mean, they must have a strategy, right, in the past, and you need to examine them. So what is your mission? What was your objectives? What was your goals? What was your problems? What was your strengths? And what do you want to change in that? Okay, so we call it a re-examination of current plan. And also, performance problems can derive from inappropriate mission statements and objectives. What's a mission statement? What's an objective? A mission statement is a summary of the company's existence. Okay, why do I exist? What is my mission? For example, our university's mission is forehand. Okay, first of all, to do research. Okay, academicians need to publish some academic papers to contribute to the literature. This is research, our mission. Second one, education, right? Educating students, undergraduates, graduates, providing them lectures. This is our second mission. Third mission, our corporate responsibilities, social responsibilities, sorry. So creating an environment that contribute to the solution of the societal problems, right? Together with the students, together with the academicians. And lastly, entrepreneurship. Motivating our students, motivating our academicians to run their business, start their businesses. So this is in our strategic plan, in Ankara Yıldırım University strategic plan, it says that it's our mission, okay, to provide these four basic things. So when you provide an explanation so clearly, okay, you say that, and you give the message that you know what you do, okay? I mean, I know why I exist. I mean, why I am a university here, right? I mean, if I does not have a good mission statement or objectives, maybe it could be also problematic for me because it means that I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. If you go back to my example of driving a car, you don't know the destination it means, okay? So our mission is this four. I mean, companies also should have this, but sometimes they mix this, okay? They may have a confusion about their missions. I mean, sometimes huge companies, they deal with thousands of works, okay? But sometimes they confuse some parts of business, some daily operations with mission, okay? What can I give the example of it? For example, the police federation, right? Their main mission is to provide security in the community, right? To provide the security, to fight with terrorism, to fight with some burglary, I mean, homicides. You can name many of things. But also at the same time, the police work, they also deal with many unrelated works as well, especially they have changed it in last years, but they were providing, for example, passport services. I mean, you need to go to the police station to have a permission for passport, for example, right? So if I was to write a strategic plan for them, I mean, if I write my mission to provide passport for people, right? It could be a bad mission for me, right? Bad definition of mission, because my original mission is to provide the security of the community. However, because I'm so into this paperwork, I think that my mission is just one of my mission is to provide some passport services to my people. So if you look at from a wrong perspective, you cannot define good objectives for the future. Okay. Okay. Now we are moving to business strategies, especially generic strategies. We will be talking about cost leadership and again the other stuff. Okay. What's a business level strategy? Business level strategy. Actually, there are different business units of the company, right? Of products and services. For each that business units, there should be some strategies. Let's see. In terms of this, we start with Porter's competitive strategies. You have read one of your articles, maybe more than one articles, like generic strategies. What are these? Can you remember? One of you can want to explain them to me? Cost leadership and differentiation. Do you remember these terms, cost leadership and differentiation strategies, or not?
It was, I guess, about the 4 factors of competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And cost leadership was, I'm trying to remember, actually.
Okay.
Differentiation advantage, I guess it was about the differentiating the maybe alternative goods that the company wants to produce and differentiate from the other companies or we can say suppliers or producers. Was it that part?
You are close. You are close. Yes. The name also gives that clue for you, right? Differentiating the products and services.
Cost advantage, yeah. Like they can understand from this part, and there was a very short article that we read as well. I guess it was because due to some innovations or anything, the producer makes an advantage of cost for himself or decreases the level of cost, so it becomes one advantage for the producer, and it can easily compete with the other producers, we can say, or maybe with the new entrants as well.
Yes, all of you are saying are actually related to differentiation. Okay, another comments or? Okay,
and also we can example of the BIM is an example of cost leadership because it's produced and serves really low in the market. And the other hand, differentiation example is the Apple, because Apple products have different design, so it has a differentiation strategy.
Yes, Sumera, it's a good example of these two, and very, very common examples of it. Yes. Mustafa, you want to add something?
Yes, sure. I would like to give example. Advantage, you can use innovation, technology, and you can make a difference. And by that, you can grab the market, and you can make an advantage from that. And in low cost advantage, you can lower the prices by you have the power to make it you have lowest, for example, if you have lowest transportation cost, so that you can use that factor. And if you have large scale of market size, you can use low cost advantage as well.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Okay, let me just put it more proper words to make a distinction between these two. So what is the main idea here? Okay, the main idea is providing a value for the customers. Okay, to attract them, to please them. Okay, you give a value for them, and Porter actually suggests that there are two ways of doing that. One of them is, as you say, differentiating. I mean, adding a different value, adding a different specialty to your product or service, or arranging your operations in a way that minimizing the cost so that you can give the price which is below average, but a quality good, okay? And there are also broad and focused aspects of it. So, what are the differences between them? Okay. First, talk about cost leadership, and then I will come back to that table. So, a cost leadership is an ability, okay, to produce your product, and you can think about all your value chain, from the production, from the supplier terms to the logistics, to the production, to sales, finance, everything. Being able to do it more efficiently. What does I mean by efficiently? With a lower cost, okay? So I gave you the example, Mustafa, maybe you remember that, remembered us as well. If you have a logistic network, okay, and if you can use that more efficiently, if your transportation cost is lower than the others, than the other rivals, it gives an advantage for you, right? Or if you have a production facility, right, that you give you a opportunity of economies of scale. You remember these terms, right? Economies of scale. By when you produce more and more, the average unit price of that product becomes lower. We call it economies of scale, for example. And also, your product is generally, when we talk about cost leadership, we think that they sell the product at the lowest price. Actually, not necessarily the lowest price, but you sell at an average price generally. I mean, being ESB, or maybe a small lower than the average price. But since your costs are very low, considerably low to the other companies, your profit margin becomes more than them. Okay, if average cost of production for your product, for example, for you is $5, but for your rival it is $7. Okay, and your rival is selling its product at $10, and you also sell your products at $10. So your profit margin is $5, but your is $3. Why? You all actually sell the same price, okay? But your cost, you can control your costs better than your rival. So it gives you a competitive advantage. This is what we call a cost leadership strategy. And it's very hard for your rival to lower that costs, okay, as you do. And about that, you go into a price war, okay? Your competitors say that I want to sell that product. I cut the price to 9 Turkish liras. And his profit margin shrink to the 2 Turkish liras, right? And you can easily also cut the price to 9 Turkish liras. Your profit margin is 4. And this profit war cannot be won by your rival because it can do it with higher costs than you, right? So generally, cost leaders earn above average returns because of their lower cost position. Okay, while the general industry gaining $3 per that unit, you gain $5 per that unit. Okay, so you can lower the price more than them if there is a price war, and you can increase your market share, and you can also create a barrier of entry. You remember that, right? Porter's 5 force, entry barriers. I mean, you want to open up let's say, grocery store here in your street, but there is a beam there, right? And you think that I cannot go to a price cutting war with beam because they have a cost advantage. They can, for example, you will order 100 bottles of Coca-Cola per week, but maybe BİM orders all over the Turkey 1 million bottles in one day, maybe, right? So they can make a bargain with Coca-Cola, and they can get their products very cheaper than you. So it's very hard for you to compete with them, and you may think that I cannot compete with that company. I don't want to open my store in here, right? So it's actually a barrier of entry as well. And do a better job and learn rivals of performing value chain activities efficiently. What's a value chain? Do you remember that? A value chain. Okay, let me describe it to you. A value chain analysis, the chain of production, starting from the raw materials, okay, and till the end. What kind of activities? First of all, you can name your primary activities. Inbound logistics. I mean, how do you take your supplies? How do you buy your raw materials? How do you warehouse them, right? How do you transport them? And operations, your production. Outbound, how marketing, how do you market? And how do you provide additional services? These are your primary activities that you make money. And then your support activities. I mean, this is not related to your mission, but this is related to your operations, right? Human resource management, finance, technology department, procurement, right? These kind of things are all exist as a value chain. Why do we call it a value chain? Do you have an idea on that? I mean, why do we call it a value, right? It's a chain of production, yes, but why do we call it a value chain?
Because, sir, at the end, we create a value. We put a value at the end.
Actually, in each of these chain, you create a value. I mean, in each of these activities, in each of these support and primary activities, you can create value for your company and value for your customer as well. For example, if you have a good service after the sale, it means that it creates a good value for the customers. Maybe some customers are just want to buy your product because of your service quality, okay? Or maybe your production is very good. I mean, your quality is very good. Your product's quality is very high. So it creates a value for them. They are trusting in that, or your advertising, or your brand, or your price, anything, okay? This value chain means that, I mean, you need to create a value, and if you can apply different strategies on that, that means you are successful. What about differentiation? Okay, what about differentiation? Let me briefly introduce it here. The differentiation means that in that value chain, you create some values, right? I mean, you understand that, I guess. In each of your production phase, you add some features. You add some features to your product, a design, a specialty, engineering factor, anything that you can name of, okay? If you can do it differently, and if you can do it better than your rivals, and if it can provide a different value to your customers, okay, it gives you an advantage as well. And at this time, what is your position? You have an average cost, okay, as the other rivals, $5 each. For each of the products of unit, cost of production unit is $5 for everyone. However, the average price is $10. They can make $5 profits, but you add a specialty to your product, you add a quality to your product, a brand name, anything that you can name of, and you can sell your product at $20, okay, not $10. People give that difference for you because of your product specialty. You can think about the iPhones, right? They are actually their cost of production must be almost same with other companies, right? Because they use the same material, they use the same technology almost, but their interface, their brand image, their design is different, and people are willing to buy that product with above average prices. Okay, we call it differentiation. And what is focus post leadership and focus differentiation? It's about the targets of the market. Okay, if you have target the all customers, a broad market, it means a broad cost leadership and differentiation strategy. But if you have only a narrow target group, a target market group, a customer group that you are focusing, then we call it a narrow or focus group. Let me stop here for this week, guys, because I want to talk about your research topics as well. Do you have any questions about this? We will be continuing on cost leadership and differentiation next week, but do you have a question on that?
I have a question related to the the article that we get last week. It's about business models. Are we going to study the business models like in this semester? Because I checked it. It was a good topic, but and it was something, a material of this course. So I'm asking like if we are going to work on this one day or not, because how to make a business model or...
Let me look our syllabus if we are talking about business models. Generally, let me look at it, which week. I'm not sure yet, but I need to look at that. Maybe strategic implementation phase, we could be talking about business models. I'm not sure actually, okay? Business models, but most probably we will be talking about this as well.
Okay.
Okay, I'm stop recording.